Hello and welcome. If you're in the UK in particular, you're probably aware that Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, has been conducting a so-called spending review. And I thought it would be useful to look at this pretty much in real time. She has recently laid out what her plan is. And the reason that I think it's important to look at this whilst it's still fresh is to keep an eye on it. Because I don't know about you, but I've been a little bit jaded recently by politicians. Generally speaking, I suppose politicians are known, some of them at least, as slippery creatures. But my goodness, some of them over the last few months have given slippery creatures a bad name. So what I've done is taken some snippets of the headlines from the news regarding Rachel and her spending review promises, and I'm going to call them that because I think that's important. You see there that I've said, how's she doing? The proof will be in the monitoring. Absolutely. So we need to look at what's being said and pay attention to how woolly it is or not, as the case may be, and to keep an eye on it. So let's also make sure to highlight and applaud some of the good stuff, because that's fair, and fairness is important. Cash injections, huge NHS schools, social housing, and the use of asylum hotels by 2029. Again, we might look at one of those to note that things may not quite be as they seem and why it's important to look at the small print. So I'll come back to that later, in particular the hotels. Anyway, the Chancellor used her spending review to pledge to be relentless, cutting Whitehall, Elon Musk-style waste. I added the Elon Musk part, it's not in the actual article, just in case you're listening to this audio only. She announced a record NHS cash injection with an extra £29 billion day to day. Wow, for day-to-day costs, £29 billion for day-to-day costs. Again, that's good to read. There was also a £39 billion package to turn the tide on the housing crisis and more cash to tackle crumbling schools. So good, no complaints. Good. No doubt some people will say it should be higher, but it's a start. So that's good if it happens. Anyway, let's move on. So this is Athena Stavro. The Chancellor confirmed a boost to the defence budget, 2.6% of GDP. Good. 11 billion increase in defence spending. The investment will deliver not only security but renewal. Again, good. Unrequired, unfortunately. Then we get David Maddox. Just 5 minutes into the spending review statement, we're already on to 3 references to working people. You see, I mentioned my kind of jaded sense of how politicians used to be, in my opinion, some of them at least. You could find people who were moral and ethical, and it seems to be harder these days. And people are, therefore, I believe, quite cynical, including me, unfortunately. I'm not a lost cause, but I'm looking at this crowd with an element of cynicism. But that might be protective in nature. Maybe we all need to be a little bit cynical when we look at them. Anyway, Rachel Reeves watchers, I'm sure there's probably some sort of club, like train spotters, also looking for fixing the foundations, economic renewal and plan for change. And there are examples of those weaselly words that politicians think that we just delight in. And no, people are too savvy for that. They're smarter than you think. They have access to the internet these days, and they can see a lot of what goes on the planet. And they've also begun to recognise, and a lot of people already did recognise, that these are just empty words. They are like hypnotic language. They are the fodder of propaganda, because it can sound good, but what on earth does it mean? We paint our own picture. We put in the detail. No. What does that actually mean? Stop using these terms anyway. It's just, I cringe every time I hear them. So what are the actual facts? Anyway, she is also out of a phrase. She's also, running out a phrase she first tried last week. My choices are Labour choices. The last one, no doubt, a message to ministerial colleagues like Angela Rayner and Yvette Cooper, who fought her all the way over cuts. I also think that is a message to the population. My choices are Labour choices. What does that mean, though? Because, sorry, your brand has been sullied. Maybe you don't want to say that, but once more, it's weasel language. It's propaganda language, because she's hoping that some people are saying, all right, the bad stuff's over. Going to be Labour now. Remembering a Labour from yesteryear. Certainly not this one. Then we have, from Kate Devlin, the PMQs before the spending review is often a boring affair, as everyone waits to hear what the Chancellor will say shortly. But Keir Starmer has just been challenged on his plans by one of his own Labour MPs. Oh, I think there's trouble in Dodge City. But that's a good thing. It's good to have trouble in Dodge City. There needs to be. Richard Bergen warned the PM against balancing the books on the backs of disabled people, a reference to expected cuts to welfare payments. Again, does that sound Labour? Not to me. And then we have this. More needed to deal with chronic issues in the building sector. I'm not going to read all of that, but just to focus here from Naomi Smith, Chief Exec of Pressure Group, Best for Britain. While vital, cash alone will not address the chronic issues facing the construction sector, which year after year contribute to missed house building targets. That means higher rents and fewer opportunities. So, to give themselves the best chance of keeping their promises to voters, the government must tackle these issues with the same focus with which they are pursuing planning reform. So, good, again, somebody looking at what they're going to be doing. Now, I thought then that it could be useful to look at what the BBC, just to skip across there, are actually saying. Now, you may be aware that the BBC has a fact-checking service, and this appears to be in that kind of area, as far as I could glean from the BBC's website. So, tracking, right? Monitoring, as I said, tracking, keeping track of what this shower of individuals are actually doing. So Rachel Reeves reaffirmed the government's asylum pledges will be ending the cost of use of hotels. The spending review says the government will do this by clearing the asylum backlog, boosting appeals capacity and continuing to return those with no right to be here. Again, what does that mean? The detail will be where the rubber hits the road. Labour has previously promised to end asylum hotels, saving the taxpayer billions of pounds in its general election manifesto. Oh, that thing. That old thing. Anyway, but recent figures show there were more asylum seekers staying in hotels in March 2025 than at the end of June 2024, a few days before the general election. So, let's move down a little bit. The numbers here. Gosh, it's always a pest when people look at the details, isn't it? At the end of last June, there were 29,585, so that's 29,585 people staying in hotels. By March this year, there were 32,345. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I don't think that number has gone down. I don't think so. However, the number had dropped compared with December. Oh, well, jolly gee, that's good. That's good to hear. But what I think we need to pay attention to is, once more, this is not really what it appears we're being told by the Chancellor. And to be fair, she isn't probably going to get into such detail during a spending review, which is an overview, of course, but it is an example of how these promises can be made, but they already haven't been kept. And so to make them be able to be kept, pretty clunky English, I appreciate, then they're going to have to get a move on. And that means they're going to have to be monitored. What's that old phrase that it's only that which you measure that gets done or changes. Anyway, let's move here. Kemi Badenoch goes for the most sensitive issue. Oh dear, does Starmer have the right Chancellor? And this is Again, Athena Stavru. The Tory leader's parting shot in PMQs was a question on many people's minds. Does Keir Starmer have the right Chancellor? Gasp, shock, horror. Well, I wonder whether another question that is on people's minds is, does the UK have the right Prime Minister? Anyway, okay, maybe you shouldn't have said that to him. He is known to be ruthless. Let's see, one other little snippet or a couple more. The aforementioned Keir Starmer could go on all morning in the afternoon. Yes, that is confusing. Keir said he could go on all morning about Labour's achievements in government. Could he? Really? Really? Do you have short mornings? Apparently forgetting that PMQ starts at midday. It was 12:10 p.m. when the Prime Minister made the claim. He could always tap up Labour peer Lord Alley for a new watch. Gosh, people just are irritated to the point where it is also kind of a field day in terms of using humour, which is very important to prick at the pomposity of these people. Very, very important, whilst we still can. So, I don't know about this guy. I mean, a legal eagle, a great legal brain. But anyway, maybe he's under more pressure than we think. And let's finish with this. Earlier, Keir Starmer told cabinet members that today marks the end of the first phase of his government. The end of the first phase of his government. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm slightly concerned by that particular statement. The end of the first phase. Do you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds a little bit like some kind of alien invasion. This is phase one. We've almost taken over the UK to turn them round to our way of thinking. Yes, we are authoritarian. They're not allowed to say certain things, but that's only the beginning. Or perhaps phase two is more inclusive. It's more hopeful. There's more humour around. Jokes are allowed again. Oh, they didn't say jokes weren't allowed. Well, we might be getting close to that point where we're really scared to say almost anything. And I know a lot of people are. So I want to divert our conversation here into that right now, today. But I mention it just to seed that thought. Another thing we've got to keep our eyes on as part of that review that Rachel talked about was to increase a lot of prison places. Great. Bad people need to be secured. Let's just hope they are secured for the right reasons. Oh, contentious perhaps. And then what we have in terms of stage one being complete could also be that stage two, it doesn't contain Keir because we have a new Prime Minister. Maybe that's an idea for stage two. Maybe that's something that, let's say, Rachel and Angela and others in the background could consider. Because the way things are going, well, I've said it before, but heaven help us. And let's also keep an eye on those promises. Well, I'm calling them promises because that's what they should be. Will they keep them? Watch the space. For the moment, from me, bye for now.